so since those first attempts of writing in the one-woman show, it kind of went towards, in chronological order after that, I kind of wrote for Backstage, but that's a different kind of writing. That's almost like reporting, and I've never done that.
Yeah, or even like teaching. Like Backstage is a lot of training and
you're like helping fellow actors or whatever, And so many people would pull me aside and go, "Oh my God, tell me about voiceover," and I'd say, "Okay, here's what you need to know." And I would tell them all this stuff, and then they would never do it. And I'd say, "Okay, all right, so how can I help people who really want to do it?" But it wasn't like something that I thought out. What happened was, okay, Sandrene, I'm going to go off track here, but what happened was I do like to help other people. So I was reading Backstage, and, and it's a really great source for people that are non-union or whatever. I mean, I was already union at this point, so I still, you can still use Backstage as a source to find out what's going on. Sometimes other auditions that are not necessarily posted on other sites that are websites now. It's more like a magazine now, but when I started over there in 2008, it was still a newspaper. Okay. And they had different newspapers for the East Coast and then the West Coast, and then they merged. So then it was both East and West Coast in one newspaper. Mm-hmm. And that's when I came on board. And what happened is I guess they have a contest where you as an actor can help other actors, where they ask you all these questions. Where do you go for the best blah, blah, blah? Where do you go for the best blah, blah? And I sent in, I guess I was in a verbal, I don't know, you have to type it all into the computer. It's all online. So I was just in a whatever moment of verbalness through my fingers, just typing away. And I guess I won this contest of where you help other actors. And so from that, they get to interview you. So then you get an article in there. And I got to meet the editor lady, and she said, "Wow, you sound like you know a lot about voiceover. Why don't you write a voiceover column for us?" And I was like, "Me? Okay." I've learned to say okay to everything. Because it might lead you to other things. You never know what it's going to... Do you know what I mean? Like, do you want to direct? Yes! And then you try to figure it out later. Do you want to assist? Blah, blah, blah. Yes! I think it's good to say yes.
It is. It's a weird balance, because then sometimes you get overwhelmed and you can't do other things. But there are a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I've never done that before," and they get scared and they don't do it. Which,
don't get scared.
Yeah. Well, sometimes people just do a horrible job because they want to say yes to everything.
Yes, in that case, I agree with you.
Yeah. Yes. But you also, that's why I think the whole balance, you don't want to let your fear keep you from going forward. So you want to put yourself in as many places as possible, because you don't know what will happen.
Right. Right. I mean, if you've done the thing they're asking you to do somewhat before, I think the smart thing would be to say yes, and then you go call someone who really knows about it, and you get all your stuff ducks in a row. If it's the next day and you don't know what you're doing, I wouldn't say yes. Do you know what I'm saying? Because then they expect you know what you're doing, and then you're sitting there going, and then that looks bad. But in this essence, I wrote before, but I'd never written in reporter style, and this was what was a challenge for me. They said, we know you're verbose. Obviously, you figured that out at this point. Right? But when you're writing an article, the word count is key, right? So the word count is how many words can they fit in this page on this article in Backstage.
Well, especially if it was printed that time.
Yeah, and it was being printed, whatever. So they said 1,500 words. I'm like, yes, okay, I could do that. The thing was I had to go out and interview people, and I had to come up with ideas for different voiceover articles, and so that was good. But when they started assigning me ideas, I had to find the different people to, accompany that idea. And that was fine because it was research and everything, but they wanted not just one person you interviewed, but two. And then if they both had pearls of wisdom, and you didn't want to cut those pearls of wisdom that you wanted to help other people who were interested in voiceover, I found it difficult. So in essence, there was an editor in New York who would help me cut it down and, reshape it into the word count that they needed. But sometimes I was just like, oh, it hurt me. It hurt my heart, because these people that had given their pearls of wisdom, some of the stuff had to be cut, what they were saying. So I had to find out the bite size, what was the most important thing to help other actors, what they had said.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that was hard.
Right.
That right there was the thing that was hard about that kind of writing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people find that in different parts of any type of industry, and that also is what kind of discourages people. you see this, because I was talking with someone recently who wants to be an editor.
Oh.
He's like, oh, well, I have this film. Like, people can just watch my film. I'm like, no one's going to sit down and watch your 20-minute long film and try and figure out what you do. Like, it's going to be 2 minutes at the most. And if they have
maybe you could have like a, what do you call it, like a trailer?
Yeah. I'm like, if that's all that you have, make a trailer. Otherwise, if you have multiple things, make a reel.
Smash them together.
Yeah, and he's like, but I should be able to go, like, based on, like, my merit. And I'm like, that would make sense in, like, mentally, but that's just not how the industry works. And I think a lot of people find that out. Like, they want to go about it doing a certain thing. So, like, you with your writing, you're like, I want to be able to write. And then there's so many restrictions. And they're necessary restrictions. Like, pre-production would take 5 years on something if you spend, like, watching feature-length films trying to find, like, your director and editor,
well,
et
for
cetera.
your friend, though, for your friends and for people that want to know that, you know, they do, what the best thing to do now is to have your own website where he can give people the option to watch the 20-minute thing and then have the trailer and his cut version of what his demo would be of him being a editor would be as the smaller, shorter version.
Right.
So as an actor, so for yourself as well, you already know this probably, but people that are watching, you know, you can either have different options that are just solely comedy, different comedy things you've been in, just solely drama, and then if somebody, you know, some of these sites these days now that are not just, let's say, your website, but some of these actor websites give you the option to show the clip right next to the thing that's on your resume, and they just click on that if they want to see that type of a thing.
Yeah.
So on Actors Access, which is the umbrella for actors on Breakdown, they'll give you that option to do the click right next to the credit if they want to see that. There's a company called Speed Reels where they do a minute. So they'll take your stuff. Now, I don't have one of those speed reels, but I have something equivalent to it. I just didn't use them per se. But if someone in LA is looking for a company, they will edit your thing together and it'll just be a minute or under. And it'll be like this thing to this thing to this thing. You know, and if you do want to put comedy and drama together, they're a good company to use.
Yeah.
But let's say there's a casting director and they go to your website and they just want to see drama because they're casting this procedural lawyer thing. Boom. They see, oh, drama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they'll click on that. That helps them because otherwise, if they've got to wade through comedy to get to your drama, they're never going to make it.
Yeah.
Same thing for your editor guys. So
yeah, and
it's
that's
really
the same
smart.
with voice acting too. Like you're supposed to have a different reel for or a different demo for every job you want to do.
Yeah, I do. I have. Yes, I do. I happen to have. I'm sorry. I have an animation one. I have a commercial one. I have, you know, just one for Walmart because I was the Walmart gal for a couple of years, which is a good gig. That was a really good gig.
Yeah.
Yay, Walmart! That was a really great gig. But, you know, they're like their own island, you know what I mean? So at this point, back then they didn't change the people they were using for their voice as much, but now they are. So they rotate people more. So, you know, you don't get a gig as that long anymore, I would say. But yeah, and then I have other things where if someone wants to hear it, I'll send them stuff like that's narration and stuff. I do need to put that on my website, but it's not as interesting as the animation thing, you know what I mean? So like I have those 3 things up there on my website, but there is a website for people that are interested. I'll just tell them if it's informational on your show. There is a website, it used to be called Audiobooks. It still is Audiobooks, but they are now called ACX. And you go to their website, and sometimes they'll have auditions where you can send in an MP3 file. Where you audition, you just send this, you know, it's like a speaking or music file now, but it's called an MP3 file, and you can just send it through the internet, you know, to audition for different portions that they'll have for you on the website that you can read as a character, and then if they choose you, you get a chance to do that narration or whatever in their audiobook. And so they now have a direct link to people that are not necessarily, they don't necessarily have to be repped, but I don't know what their guidelines are, but you just have to have your stuff up there posted so people can hear you. And there's these other websites that if you're not repped, that are really great, you know, like Voice123 or Voices.com, you know, that work really well for non-union. A good portion of their stuff, more so, is non-union. But if you're not non-union, you know, your agent is helping you get these auditions. But now, because you don't have to be married to being in Los Angeles or New York or a large market now, you could be somewhere like in Atlanta, let's say, or you could be in Nashville, and you could send the MP3 file to this ACX, and you could be hired, boom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I like that I mean, a lot of people have, I guess, mixed feelings about how everything is spreading out. But now, like, Atlanta is a big market, and New Orleans, and New Mexico. I guess it's in Albuquerque. I don't know.
Everyone you mean for like film, like all of the incentives that they have. Yeah. Sometimes they have these really great tax incentives. But, you know, our mayor here in LA just caught wind. I mean, the mayor prior to him, I don't think he did it on purpose, but he didn't do it soon enough because a lot of work went to Atlanta and New Orleans, and
because everyone's just
we lost a lot of work here
like,
in LA.
Oh, everything's in California, and like no one's going to leave California, but they did.
They did. You know, everybody's trying to look for something that's cheaper. So it's almost like this. Oh, it wasn't the mayor. Excuse me. It was the governor. The governor. So he just did a whole bunch of new tax incentives for people. You know, productions that stay in LA. So I'm hoping that we don't lose more stuff to these other areas. Great thing if you're an actor, though. Let me give you a. Can I give you another note? Helping all your people watching. Well, like I said, this is just one of those things. Yeah, but, absolutely. You know, I wish someone was around when I was younger, in my 20s or whatever, to tell me stuff that would have helped me get a leg up on it, you know, in LA or whatever. But what was I going to tell you? Oh, God.
You're talking about incentives and everything staying here. While you think of it,
yes. Yeah. Oh, you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay, keep that question.
I've got it.
Okay, a great close girlfriend of mine. I'm so proud of her. She just booked something from the Atlanta branch of this agency that she's repped by. Now she has family that lives in Atlanta, so she can give their address, and she lives. You know, she for all intents and purposes, you know, she lives most of her time here, but she also goes there to visit people. Blah blah blah. So it's not like she's fibbing or anything.
Right.
But when this Atlanta agent wants her to submit for something, some of the parts that she gets out of Atlanta are larger than the parts that she can get as an audition out here. So she puts herself on tape, she sends it to her Atlanta agent, the Atlanta agent does the submission. Now, for some reason, casting directors in LA don't necessarily see certain people in Los Angeles for certain parts. And I'm not talking about co-star. I'm talking about things that for TV shows that could be guest stars. For some reason, the Atlanta agencies will be more open to submit someone who lives in Atlanta for a guest star part than, let's say, someone who is in LA. The LA casting people, I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying for certain shows or whatever, they are allowed to, or some shows aren't allowed to. It's not always left up to the LA casting agent, so it's not their fault. But she got this gig because she submitted herself through her Atlanta agent, and they were open to seeing for guest star, and she was the best person for the job. Boom, she got the gig. But she wasn't able to get into the LA casting office for the same show. You tell me that's not weird.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, I'm so proud of her. She got this gig. And so sometimes it's good that if you are able to say that, you know, you can work in that state. So for me, I can work in New York. So I'm a local hire. It's called local hire in New York because I have family that still lives there. That means they don't have to fly you out there on their dime. So you'd have to pay maybe for a ticket to fly there to do the job. But you could stay with family or whatever while you're shooting it, so they don't have to board you or fly you out or whatever. So if they're, let's say, doing an independent film, but it's amazing, they've got a great cast, it's worth your while to pay the ticket to go out there to work local hire if you can work in that state. And so if she can work in Atlanta, boom, she gets all these jobs in Atlanta. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, for whatever reason, the casting people aren't able to be open enough out here to have us audition for those kind of things, and you can get it in another state. If you are able to work in a whole bunch of states, find different agents in those states, because a lot of friends of mine have recently booked work from their local agent, not necessarily their LA agent.
Yeah, and I can
so
I can
it's
see
a really
that
amazing
being a hard
thing.
time. Yeah, because they have so much to cast and so many things that you're just kind of like, oh, I remember this person from like a month ago. Like, bring those 5 people in or something. And so even if
the market out here is so much bigger, so it could be that.
Right.
You know, they're going with the larger agents, or they're going with whatever it is. We only have one spot from your agency that can come in. You know, and the Atlanta people, maybe they're there. Well, let's see what they have. We won't have to fly them out. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they're open to that. So it's kind of cool.